Television Authority. I am Muslima Sholibo and I'm here with Claire.
Oh
Good
yeah,
morning.
Muslima, I love your headgear.
Ah, thank you.
And
It's for you.
outstanding too.
Thank you.
All right, let's get started with the headlines.
INEC threatens to withdraw from the conduct of Edo governorship election if the threat of violence escalates as it introduces a dedicated public portal for viewing polling unit results real time.
Current phase 2 of East lockdown sustained for another 4 weeks as federal government makes slight modifications to existing COVID-19 guidelines.
Volunteer Desk for Surveillance and Enforcement of COVID-19 guidelines activated in all government schools as partial resumption commences nationwide.
The northern governors frown at persistent attacks in southern Kaduna.
We'll start this bulletin with political issues. A report from the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says the election umpire will withdraw from the conduct of Edo governorship election if the threat of violence escalates and candidates unduly influence the electorate. INEC chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu stated this in an interview with journalists in Nasarawa State.
Whatever we need to do to stem the ugly reports of violence so far, or threats of it, particularly in Edo State, we'll do so. We'll continue to speak to the actors. The assurance has been consistent with the assurance that we have always given. We are not a political party. We have no candidates in the election. We will jealously guard our processes. But as I said, and I keep repeating myself, anybody who thinks that he can influence the people's choice on election day through violence is wasting his time. If there is violence, we'll simply withdraw and we'll see who will declare winner in that manner.
And in the meantime, INEC has introduced a dedicated public portal, the INEC Result Viewing IREV, that will enable Nigerians to view polling unit results real time as the voting ends on election day. Now, this is to strengthen transparency in the election result management system. A statement by the INEC National Commissioner for Information, Festus Okoye, indicates that this is to ensure transparency and avoid destruction of results at polling units by political parties. However, it does not constitute electronic collation of results, and the Commission shall retain, as provided for by law, a manual process of completion of relevant result sheets and their upwards collation until the final results are determined. This innovation will commence from the Nasarawa Central State constituency by-election in Nasarawa State, scheduled for Saturday, August the 8th, 2020. Thereafter, it will be extended to the Edo and Ondo governorship elections as well as all subsequent elections.
Now, let's take the latest on Nigeria's management of the coronavirus. The federal government has retained the current phase 2 of the East lockdown for another 4 weeks, with slight modifications of the existing guidelines.
And chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa, says this follows President Buhari's approval of the 6th interim report and recommendations of the task force. Mitairi Ikben tells us more.
Although the second phase of the eased lockdown suffered non-compliance and poor enforcement of PTF guidelines in the states, the task force modified the existing guidelines with considerations for movement, industry and labor, as well as community activities. The modifications include granting permission to civil servants from grade level 12 and above to resume full working hours, Mondays to Fridays. permission to exiting classes to resume ahead of examinations, approval to the Ministry of Aviation to prepare for reopening of international flights in a matter of weeks, and reopening of recreation parks only for supervised physical exercise and not for social gatherings. The retained restrictions include the nationwide curfew from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., bars, cinemas, and nightclubs to remain closed, continued ban on mass gatherings, while daycare and primary schools are to remain closed except for pupils taking exams in line with established guidelines and protocols.
We have made recommendations to the aviation industry to commence the process for opening international airports, provided all existing international and local prevention guidelines on COVID-19 are in place. We encourage work at home policy for civil/public servants below the grade level of 12. However, while primary schools must remain closed, registered pupils may proceed to take the National Common Entrance as soon as it is feasible, provided there is compliance with issued non-pharmaceutical guidelines. For secondary and tertiary institutions, just to clarify, these remain closed. However, we have made arrangements for exiting or graduating students in their final years of secondary school to resume and partake in exams in line with guidelines issued by the Federal Ministry of Education. Restriction is removed on outdoor communal non-contact sports and the use of recreational parks for supervised physical exercise, not for social interactions, but supervised physical exercise.
The Presidential Task Force reached the conclusion that for Nigeria, it is important to ensure that restrictions are not completely relaxed in order to control and abate further community transmission.
As restrictions are being gradually eased, the PTF, however, warns that skepticism about COVID-19 could further complicate the pandemic. Hence, state governments and communities are urged to own the response and educate citizens. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikwen, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has announced 354 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. The latest figures released brings the total number of confirmed cases to 45,244 infections in the country. A breakdown of the new cases from 17 states indicates that FCT recorded the highest number for the day with 78 new cases, while Lagos State has 76. Kaduna 23, Ebonyi 19, Oyo 18, Nasarawa and Rivers recorded 17 new cases. Others are Delta with 16, Kwara 15, Akwa Ibom 13, Edo and Ogun recorded 12 new cases each, Plateau 11 and Kano 9. The day's tally is completed by Bauchi, Borno and Ekiti states, recording 6 cases each. Confirmed cases by state, Lagos has the highest with 15,627, followed by the FCT with 4,241, and Oyo State comes third with 2,825 cases. With the latest development, total number of active cases stands at 11,884, while 32,430 cases have been successfully treated and discharged. Also, unfortunately, 930 patients have died.
And still staying with COVID-19, the confirmation of 4 coronavirus deaths in Taraba State by the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has sent panic among residents, with many saying it is a wake-up call for the citizens.
Joseph Ortson reports that the state government has also allotted some funds to management of the disease.
The report of Nigeria's Center for Disease Control confirming 4 deaths in the state has sent a wave of panic among many.
Especially in where the death has never been recorded before. It's going to be a awakening. So people that do not believe about the pandemic will be aware that yes, this thing is real.
Really, if we are recording 4 deaths now in Taraba, it's not a joke then.
The devastating effect of coronavirus pandemic on socio-economic and health has prompted the state government to invest more in management of the disease, hoping that the state will record less cases and, if possible, stop the spread. It has revealed its 2020 budget, slashing funds from other sectors and channeling them to the fight against COVID-19.
General economic sector of Taraba State, 2020 revised budget, about 30% of that sector has been allocated to COVID-19 pandemic-related programs and projects.
Records from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control shows that Taraba State has 72 confirmed cases of COVID-19, out of which 55 persons have been discharged. In Jalingo, Joseph Sound Oten, NTA News.
And in the meantime, the Nigeria Governors Forum is adopting far-reaching measures to ensure schools comply with COVID-19 safety protocols for returning students preparing for exiting examinations.
And that was part of the resolution at the 14th teleconference on COVID-19 to mitigate the impact of the pandemic in the country. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports.
The Nigerian Governors Forum is putting finishing touches across schools in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Education to ensure safety of exiting students and contain the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. The forum is concerned about the continued impasse between state governments and resident doctors and advised states to close ranks in resolving the pressing issues in the interest of the nation's health sector. The 36 state governors condemned the attack on Borno State Governor's convoy and promised to present its position to the presidency for further review of the security situation in the country. The NGF engaged the National Economic Council over the suspension of counterpart requirement to access the Universal Basic Education Fund and other national intervention budgets and statutory levies. The forum received update from Aliko Dangote on behalf of Coalition Against COVID-19 on the flag off and distribution of palliatives to Borno, Edo, Enugu, and Kano states and other parts of the country to reach more vulnerable population. The annual assessment performance for states' financial transparency, accountability, and sustainability to drive implementation components for 2019 was also deliberated upon. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
And ahead of school's resumption, commencement of WAEC and NECO examinations, the federal government is activating Environmental Health Practice Volunteer Desk for surveillance and enforcement of COVID-19 safety protocols in all 19,000 WAEC centers across the nation.
That is right. This is in addition to the decontamination of federal government colleges in Nigeria. Onengie Five-Face tells you more about this.
Jonah Onoiten and Mesolma Kalu, students of Federal Science and Technical College, Orozo, are in for a big surprise. Social distancing, even in the hostel.
You know, in the hostel, as a boarding school, we tend to mix because of how long we have missed our friends. But it has gotten to the extent that they have grouped us 4-4 in each room. In the room, we used to be about 18, but now 4-4 to each room. You have your bunk, you have your own bed space, you have so nothing should concern you with the other member of the room.
We are always asked to wash our hands, carry our pocket hand sanitizer, carry your pocket hand sanitizer everywhere you go. In our hostels, before you enter the hostels, you'll see a bath of water and sanitizer and soap.
Their newly acquired lifestyle of regular hand washing, use of face mask, and use of hand sanitizers are all measures being implemented by schools as they receive students preparatory to the WAEC examinations.
We've mapped out strategies on how they will ensure compliance by both students and staff so that we can have a safe environment.
On its part, the federal government continues to decontaminate schools. The Ministry of Environment has also engaged 40,000 volunteers to mount surveillance in all WAEC centers to implement compliance with COVID-19 protocols.
Ministry of Environment and also the council that regulate environmental health are going to put up a monitoring committee where we are going to deploy a technology using ATP machines so that we can be able to detect the efficacy of this decontamination chemicals that has been used in the schools.
Mechanisms for private sector participation has been put in place to ensure the safety of all students in the country. In Abuja, Onengiye Fine Face, NTA News.
This is the news at 10 on NTA News 24, reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Still ahead.
Celebration of a medical miracle. Join us again for details.
This is to all depositors in any licensed bank in Nigeria. Do not worry about the safety of your money in the bank during COVID-19 pandemic because the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC, protects it. The NDIC and other relevant agencies have intensified monitoring of all banks to protect your savings from any risk. We assure you that your money is absolutely safe in the banks, but not so under your beds. The protection of your money is guaranteed when you deposit it in a licensed bank. Look out for NDIC sticker in all licensed banks, and if you have deposit in any closed licensed bank, you can still claim your money by filling the verification form on the NDIC website www.ndic.gov.ng or email claimscomplaints@ndic.gov.ng. For inquiries, call us on our toll-free NDIC help desk line 08006-342-4357 or email helpdesk@ndic.gov.ng. NDIC, protecting your bank deposits.
It's good to have you join us again. Now, away from COVID-19 matters to security. Residents of Maiduguri have commended the synergy between the Nigerian military and the Borno State government in the counter-insurgency war, which led to the relative peace being enjoyed, urging it to continue now that preparations are underway for the return of IDPs to their communities. Maimuna Garba has more.
The significant peace recently being enjoyed by Borno citizenry is as a result of the renewed approach toward handling security issues both on the part of the military as well as Borno State government in the ongoing counter-insurgency operations. People of the Northeast, particularly those in Borno State, will not forget how at the onset of the Buhari administration, relative peace was restored and communities captured by Boko Haram insurgents were liberated by the Nigerian military.
So I think there is a very good cordiality between the government and the military. And in part of the military, we have seen a lot of success stories in that regard.
The peace we are witnessing today, generally speaking, we have not witnessed it about 5-6 years ago. So I think they are doing very well, despite the fact that there are challenges here and there.
And I think we need to appreciate the army. The governor has injected massively on ensuring there's peace and security.
This was what necessitated the reconstruction and resettlement process of Borno State government, supported by the federal government and other donor agencies, both national and international, with Governor Babagana Umar Zulum as the pioneer commissioner of the ministry purposely created then to reconstruct, rehabilitate and resettle displaced persons.
You are also to note that steps have been taken by some state governments in the Northeast region to ensure the return of civilians back to their towns, villages and communities. You must take adequate steps to ensure good civil-military relations with the locals in order to win their hearts and minds.
Similarly, Borno State Governor Professor Babagana Umar Zulum is not relenting in ensuring lasting peace is restored to the state as issue of security remains his priority, considering the tremendous support he has been rendering to the military in its quest to end the insurgency war.
This administration under my leadership will continue to support you. I'm aware of your situation on ground. Despite the support that the Nigerian military is giving to you, we are here to support you, and we shall continue to support you.
Apart from donating vehicles and other logistics to the military, Professor Zulum also established the Rapid Response Squad to assist the military in strengthening security in Borno. Governor Zulum's frequent visits to local government areas is to ensure restoration of civil authorities, as already some emirs have relocated to their emirates and socio-economic activities are thriving, hence the reopening of some roads in northern Borno, whose residents are still in IDP camps in Maiduguri, to pave way for their return to their localities. In Maiduguri, Maimuna Garba, NTA News.
And the Northern Governors Forum has condemned the recent attack in southern Kaduna, in which about 22 persons were reportedly killed on Wednesday night. Yet to be arrested gunmen attacked 4 Atiop villages in Sangun Kataf local government area of Kaduna State. In a statement by Director of Press and Public Affairs to the Governor of Plateau State and Chairman Northern Governors Forum, Dr. Makud Simon Macham, Governor Simon Bakula Long said the persistent attacks on villages in the area, despite all efforts by the Kaduna State government and security agencies to end the violence, raises serious concern and condemnation. Long said the recent attack where the Atiop villages were affected shows the desperate attempt by criminal elements not only to cause panic and sorrow among innocent citizens, but also frustrate the efforts of the Kaduna State government at fostering peace and harmony. Governor Lalong also said that the Northern Governors Forum maintains its position that any group or individual that is aggrieved for whatsoever reason should seek redress through official channels than resort to self-help, which only exacerbates crisis and instability. The Northern Governors Forum commits rates for the victims of the crisis and the government of Kaduna State, pledging its support to Governor Nasir El-Rufai as he works with all state interest groups to bring the incessant crisis to an end.
And now on to legislative matters. The House of Representatives Committee on Public Accounts has written to the presidency to compel the Central Bank of Nigeria and other agencies to appear before it within 7 days to answer questions surrounding the sales of government-landed property.
Chairman of the committee, Wale Oki, directed the clerk to forward a letter to that effect when 6 out of 9 agencies invited to appear before it failed to honor the invitation. John Yaku tells us more.
The agencies are the Central Bank of Nigeria, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Nigerian Ports Authority, Bureau of Public Enterprise, National Emergency Management Agency, and the National OSP Detection Agency. They are to brief the committee on revenues generated through the sale of government-landed properties as queried by the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation.
We insist that these agencies we have listed to appear before us and make submissions so that we can really understand PIC holistically. Because if we are taking PIC now, and in their submission, some agencies also participated in the sale of assets, and they are not the Auditor General, and they have not appeared or they refuse to appear to take a position, then how would you be able to appreciate the totality of what PIC is saying?
Those that appeared were the Transmission Company of Nigeria, Nigeria Electricity Liability Management Company, and the Presidential Implementation Committee on the Sale of Government-Landed Property. In Abuja, John Yaku, NTA News.
And the federal government is assessing performance of all ministries, departments, and agencies for improved service delivery in line with the open governance policy.
Now, the exercise being conducted by the Bureau of Public Service Reforms has so far assessed 50 agencies of government. Joshua Uchito reports.
Established in 2006 to drive the electricity power sector reform, the Nigeria Electricity Liability Management Company Limited administered, among others, stranded debts and liabilities of the defunct Power Holding Company of Nigeria, PHCN, in the pre- and post-privatization era. 14 years into its operation, which saved 92 billion naira for the federal government, the company subjects itself to self-assessment conducted by the Bureau for Public Service Reforms. Strengths and weaknesses of the company were identified, and Nigeria Electricity Liability Management Company Limited makes it to the Hall of Fame with a gold-level award for outstanding performance.
The recommendations in this report will contribute towards making your agency one of the best in the country and a pocket of excellence that will need the Nigerian public service to be among the first 20 by the year 2025.
The power sector is on the path of achieving its goal.
We developed a model, and that model we refer to it as the TVH, the Triangular Verification Model. So that model we put in place to enable us conduct due diligence on the inherited debts.
with recommendations by the Bureau for Public Service Reforms for a board to be constituted for the company, as well as anti-corruption policy instituted. There are expectations that the performance of the Nigeria Electricity Liability Management Company Limited will translate to improved power supply in the country. In Abuja, Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
And the Minister of State for Health, Dr. Olorunimbe Mamura, has reaffirmed federal government's determination in making Nigeria the biggest medical tourist destinations in Africa.
He stated this while receiving the separated co-joined twins at the Federal Medical Center, Kefi. Suraj Abdullahi has the details.
These conjoined twins were brought to the Federal Medical Center, Kefi, some months ago, sharing the same liver, based on the available information from the center. Having critically examined the conjoint, the center vowed to carry out surgical operation to separate the twins. After 9 hours of operation, leader of the medical team, Dr. Charles Su, described the procedure as a huge success.
It's one of the most challenging things we would ever see, as it is, but we rose to the challenge in many ways.
While receiving the separated twins, alongside briefing from the Federal Medical Center, Kefi, Minister of State for Health, Dr. Mamura, applauds the commitment of the center, adding that the huge investment of Buhari's administration in the health sector is not in vain.
Separation of conjoined twins take place mostly in medical practice of the first world countries. But here we are today also announcing an operation carried out by 100%, I repeat, 100% indigenous medical.
From the onset to the last bit of our speech, there was no single moment of scare.
National State Governor Abdullahi Sule, who also visited the separated twins, pledged continued support to the center to achieve greater feats.
I came in to see it for myself, and I'm happy to see the children very healthy.
FMC Kefi serves as the closest available federal tertiary health facility to FCT that provides service to a very large number of people. From Kefi, Suraj Abdullahi, NTA News.
That was a fantastic feat. And our medical personnel, they are the best, I would say. And outside the country, they perform a lot of medical feats. Yes, so I'm not surprised.
Honestly, Muslima, this is one of the very complex medical procedures that we couldn't do before in this country. But right now, very many hospitals are performing the feat. It's no longer a feat. We don't consider it as a feat anymore. But what makes this particular story quite captivating?
Precisely. Exactly.
All the personnel are Nigerians.
Kudos to Nigerian medical team. The news at 10 is reaching you on the NTA News 24. Stay with us for more reports shortly.
All our social media platforms: Facebook at NTA Network News, Instagram at NTA Network, Twitter at NTA News Now, YouTube at NTA News Online. All visit www.nta.ng. For live streaming, visit www.